30-minute reviews, beware of spoilers, and exploring hyperspace lanes are all available ad-free. But if you want to support the show, you can go to bewareofspoilers.com and click the support button that's available on the Spotify website. Thank you. Welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam.
And I'm Peter.
And we're here today for the Dune episode. But before we do that, I need to get your opinion on something because me and Josie had a massive argument about this, and she said I'm wrong. And I think I'm not wrong here. Because I think I told you just before this we recorded the Star Wars show, the new episode of it. And I told her what happened in Best Buy, which I don't know if I told you or not. So I went in to get something, and I've gotten incorrect information on multiple occasions from the people at Best Buy, like patently incorrect information. And I want to get your opinion on this. Should the people at Best Buy know what they're selling?
I think if they're the people that stand in the specific areas.
Yes, that's what I'm referring to, not the cashier.
I assume that they know that area then, that's why they're standing there.
Yeah, because it's like I think I told you one of the questions where it was like, do you sell like 4K external Blu-ray players? Because like my laptop can play 4K video, but it doesn't have a drive. So I'm like, do you sell a 4K Blu-ray drive? And he told me, no, but you can use a regular Blu-ray drive. And I'm like, you can't. It's not the same thing. It's encoded differently. and I'm like, this is the guy in the computer section. She goes, well, you shouldn't be. You're asking too much of the guy working in Best Buy. I'm like, no, that's if I was asking a guy shopping there, I'd be like, yeah, but no, this is the guy working there. So, all right, it's good to know that I'm not the crazy one here.
Yeah, that's also just it's not even asking. Like if you wonder like how does Bluetooth work? Or like,
exactly.
Like something like then that would be like, yeah, they don't need to know.
Like a super technical question. It's like, no, this is something that you're probably selling if it exists. I don't even know if it. I still haven't gotten a concrete answer of if it exists.
Best Buy usually has good deals where if you buy it online and pick it up at the store, it's like can be cheaper. So that's how I usually shop at Best Buy. So I don't even interact or ask them questions.
Yeah, I go in because it's like the good Best Buy by me just put in a whole new camera section where it's like they have all the cameras like in a circle around like this table that's got like a miniature city set up, and you can use it to like test the camera's like viewfinder range. And I'm like, oh, that's smart. The one that I go to hasn't been remodeled, and I wouldn't be surprised if it closes.
Yeah, I go in the camera section, but yeah, not that nice where you can test it and stuff.
Yeah, they have they just put in a giant e-bike section, and I'm like, I don't think there's a big e-bike market in Suffolk County. It's like if this is in like Brooklyn, I'd be like, yeah, go for it. But like the closest anything resembling civilization is Stony Brook University, and I don't think they're allowed to have e-bikes on campus. It's probably some kind of fire risk to have the batteries.
They go really fast too. Some of them go like over 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, and they don't want that on campus where someone can get hit and it becomes a lawsuit. Especially because people over there are stupid. Anyway, we're here to talk about Dune Part 2 today, now that we've settled that. Were people vaping in your movie theater? Is this a new thing now, people vaping in the movie theater?
No, I'm surprised people here don't, because so many people do vape and thing. But yeah, I've never seen that happen in the movie theaters here. I think people are usually pretty good. My movie theater though, there's multiple people dressed up in costumes.
We didn't have that. We had a lot of people buying the bucket, and I was like, I think that the joke has gone too far.
It's like, perfect for AMC. That's it's like those buckets are like $20, I bet, or something.
Yeah, but like I would like when I saw, I was like, why didn't you do the box? Like it's so much. That's such an easy win. It's like, why wouldn't you guys do that instead of doing the worm? Like, it's confusing to me. You guys got up to go get something.
I have
the
box,
the special edition one from the DVD.
No, I 3D printed this.
Oh, okay. So you can use that for popcorn.
Yes, if I really wanted to. In mine too, there were multiple people. When I went into the movie theater, the lights were still up a little bit.
Right.
There was multiple people sitting in the theater reading Dune before the movie started. So I guess to
last section, last
let
section
everyone else know how
cram
smart they
session to
are.
make sure everyone knows that they're like make sure. Oh shit, I didn't finish it yet.
Yeah, it's that, or it was like to let everyone know that they know about Dune.
Well, I think if you're doing that, you would go with one of the later books, not the one that you're about to watch in the movie. Like I
That's
would
a good
like
point.
you would go with like Messiah or like even like Heretics or something, just to be like, see how much better than you I am. I'm this much
Yeah.
farther down the line. Um, I did see an interesting theory regarding the quotations in the beginning in that weird language. Do you still think it's the Guild Navigators? I think that's what you said last
It's
time.
either it's because that's what it sounds like, or it's the Sardaukar like priests or whatever, but because it's like that throat singing voice, but I don't know.
Right. I saw a theory that it's Leto.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Which it could make sense if it's like him looking into the past or whatever, and
Yeah.
like if he can view everything.
Hmm.
I don't think they'll ever say it one way or the other, so it's fun to have theories and
Yeah.
you know, discuss it then.
Yeah, I think and for anyone out there, we're gonna spoil this movie. And when I started writing the copy for the post on the website for this, I was really snarky because I wrote it like a week before I saw the movie, and I was
Mhm.
like, this episode will contain spoilers for a 59-year-old book, so
Yeah.
please do not get mad. I cut that after I saw the movie though because of how much they changed.
Hmm.
Because I think enough changed where it's like you got to tread a little bit carefully.
Yeah.
Um, like the overarching story arc is kind of the same. It's basically the same,
Yeah,
but a
and
lot
the
of
major plot points are they
yeah,
still pretty much the same.
but like the things that get from point A to point B are changed in this, and I think they did a lot of really smart changes. Um, like when I watched it the second time, because I've seen it twice now, one of the things I noticed was like they don't make as big a deal as they do in the book about the atomics.
Yeah, that's they because in the book in the early in the beginning they talk about atomic weapons and like the rules governing uses of atomic
Yeah,
weapons and
don't use them on humans, and then it's like we can't even attempt to use it because the radiation will stay, and that's evidence that we did it, and that'll be a problem.
Mhm.
Like, it's one of those things. Like, I think that they changed that because I think once you say we have atomic weapons, it's different now than it was in 1960
Yeah.
or 1965 when this came out, where it's like there was a very real threat that people would end up using atomic weapons on each other in 1965, especially coming out of the Cuban Missile Crisis fairly
Yeah.
recently. Like here um, in 2024, I don't think it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we have nuclear weapons, we know what the implication of that is.
Mhm.
We don't need to sit here and explain why it's bad. We know it's bad. Let's just move on. We just
Yeah.
sat in a 3 hour movie about Oppenheimer. We know what's going on here. That's also by Warner Brothers. Um, and someone did boo the Warner Brothers logo, by the way, which I
Oh,
thought
in your
was funny.
theater?
Yeah, which I thought was funny. Um, and I thought that was an interesting change, and I think that like it's good they didn't sit there and explain why they didn't just see that's the one issue though. They did need to explain that because why didn't they just nuke where the people were standing that were far enough away from the emperor and
Yes.
that like why not just drop the nuke there and just be done with it? But they don't really explain that.
Yeah. Or if you're just using it to make like a giant, it seemed almost like yeah, to make almost like a giant dust cloud.
Yeah. Well,
Why
look to
didn't
break
you
the
use
storm up.
other explosions?
Yeah, and that's the only issue that I had with it was that. I think cutting Leto was smart.
Oh yeah,
Um,
the first Leto too.
yeah.
Well, there's also, do you remember in the book there's a time jump, in the movie there's a time
Yes.
jump. Do you remember how long the time jump is in the book?
In the book, oh, it's sizable because
Mhm.
Aaliyah is like 4 years old by the end of it.
Yes, it's a 2 year time jump
Yeah.
for that starts the beginning of part three, and then
Mhm.
I think there's another time jump within that part too. So
Yeah.
so it's much longer passages of time.
Right. Because this is in the entirety of Dune Part One, Part Two takes place in under 9 months
Yeah,
because
yeah,
we don't see her get pregnant, and the baby is still not born yet by the end
yeah.
of Part Two. So the
Yeah,
whole thing
part
takes place.
two ends with her doing the water of life, and then the baby like becoming aware, but still in the womb.
Right.
And then the Harkonnens plans, and there's way more of the Harkonnens talking and stuff in the book.
Oh no, I was talking about the movie. The movie takes place over.
Oh,
9 months.
yeah, the movie.
The movie takes place over 9 months.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Because it's like because we don't see her get pregnant. We just know Paul knows she's pregnant in part 1, and then part 2 she's still pregnant. The baby's not born yet. So you couldn't fit in Leto in that. So I think it's a smart cut.
Yeah, you'd have to have Aaliyah born.
I think depending on the amount of, I mean, just for pure biology's sake, you need to have Aaliyah born. Like if you're gonna have Leto there, and then old enough to fight, so he's gonna like. I think Leto is gonna end like that's gonna be the thing. I think that's going to because let's just get to the end of the movie where it ends very differently from the book, and even what the visions that we saw in the first part were, where Chani goes off into the desert again, and doesn't join in the Holy War. And the question that I have with that is, how do you reconcile that with where you need to go in Messiah? I think Leto is going to be the answer. I think that like Villeneuve is a meticulous filmmaker. We don't see that scene where it's very clearly after Paul and Chani just fucked. It's very clear that's going to be like this is where Leto was conceived.
Yeah. But then she still has to, so the only issue with that is the reason that Leto and Gianni gain their. Oh, do you mean the first Leto that dies, or
I think they're just gonna omit the first Leto entirely, and they're just gonna go on to because you can just call him Leto the Second, even though it's not accurate.
Yeah,
you could still call him Leto the Second because he'd be, Duke Leto Atreides the Second anyway.
Yeah, well, he's still that because of the first,
right? Because
that part, they just like rename it basically.
Yeah, and then forget the first one.
But the only issue with Chani conceiving them earlier is that they gain their powers because Rulin is giving Chani like birth control stuff, and then they keep giving her more and more spice to try to make her get pregnant. So then she's like has super high spice levels when she eventually gets pregnant in Messiah.
All right, because like that's the thing that I could see bringing her back is like, look, this is your kid, we gotta deal with this. Like that's a thing to bring them back together. I don't know because the thing is, by the time we get to Messiah, do they kill off one Leto and bring in another one, or do they?
Yeah, that'd be more weird because they already defeated the Harkonnens too. So
yeah,
who's attacking them?
Unless they're saying that, oh, by the way, in the intervening years you didn't see, we had a kid. That kid was named Leto. He went out and fought in the war. He died. He came, and now we had a second son. We named him Leto too. There's. I think that they just omit the first one and just have him be the older sibling and just move on from there. And they can just say that because he had he hadn't taken the waters of life yet when that scene happened. It was right before.
That's true.
Although they could just say because Chani had it. Because Chani did that thing where she touched here and then she put it on her lips, that's gonna be the entire explanation as to how he is, got his powers. I think. What was and then I stand by what I said after I saw the second time. I think that if they do a big enough time jump, they could bring in Jeremy Allen White. Because the way his hair, I didn't notice it the first time I saw it, but after he gets off the sandworm going down to the south, the way his hair is blown back is just kind of stuck like that for the entire rest of the movie.
Yeah. But I guess it also depends how they're aging the children too, because they're probably not going to be 20 years old in Messiah.
Well, they could. I mean, they could just Anya Taylor-Joy it.
Yeah.
Where you see
that's the visions and things, because they see Paul when they're infants and then they're talking and stuff. It's it'll be very strange. I don't know exactly how they'll be able to do it.
I think they handled it well with Aaliyah. I think that maybe they just skip ahead.
Yeah.
Until they're adults and maybe just see. That's why I said my original theory was they skip Messiah, go right to children, and then do flashbacks to Messiah.
Well, I guess they could do the prophet would be less obvious, or that would be more mysterious then if they don't show Paul going out into the desert.
Because that's the issue, is that it's when I started reading Children of Dune the first time, you're like, oh, who is the prophet gonna be? And then as soon as I started reading it, I'm like, it's Paul. Like it's obvious. Like it's not it's not a secret. It's pretty open. In like page 2, you kind of suss out that it's supposed to be Paul. Like and I think that would play better. And then on top of that, like I don't remember Messiah that well. Like I don't like, and I think that kind of speaks to the book itself. Like all I remember is the end.
Well, in Messiah and all the other, it goes way more into like the guild and the Bene Gesserit schemes and like how they're trying to reclaim power too.
Mm-hmm. Which, like, I think that even that's something that I think that this movie indicated you don't need to have the Bene Gesserit scheming that much. Because I think the end of this implied more. And when we see the Bene Gesserit scheming with, like, Irulan and all them, it's like, this is somewhat the plan. And if it's not exactly the plan, we still have enough control where we can improvise and move on from here.
Yeah, well, that's why, like I said, or I like they said in the very end when Jessica's like talking to the head Reverend Mother.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "You chose the wrong side," and she was just like, "You idiot! Like we don't choose sides. Like that's why they always survive.
We play both sides. That way we always win."
Yeah, that's basically what they do, and that's also they're not that she's kind of a like evil, the head Reverend Mother, but the Bene Gesserit as a whole really aren't considered evil in the series. Because like they're like the only faction that really lasts throughout the entire series.
Right.
And they become the main characters later on in the books.
Yeah. That's because who was the main character in the 5th one on? I forgot her name.
So there's like a few different Bene Gesserit. I also forget their names. But that's with Duncan Idaho and the Oberlin. That's one of them.
Oh, okay, yeah, I remember that name. I think that and that was the other thing that I thought was the only change I didn't like was Jameis being this thing that Paul keeps calling to, because I'm like, it feels weird that he's calling to Jameis of all people. It's like you interacted with him for about 10 minutes, then you stabbed him to death because he was a dick the entire time.
And they didn't even do. Did they do the water to the dead thing?
No, they didn't do that.
That's what I thought. That was so strange. Where they put all this emphasis on his connection with Jameis.
Yeah.
And then they didn't do the water to the dead scene, which that could have been like 30 seconds of him just crying, and they're like, "Oh, he's giving water to the dead." Crazy.
I think the issue is it's like in the book, it's kind of interesting, but like it's one of those things. Like when I was reading it, I was like, yeah, but like, wouldn't anyone who has gone to Arrakis for the first time cry when someone like that's not a weird? And the thing is, too, they don't really establish Paul as a mentat either. So him crying, like, it doesn't have the impact because it's like up until this movie, or up until in the first movie, he gets into a fight with Jameis. He's not like a warrior or anything. He's kind of just a kid. So like, even if it was 15. Yeah, because even if it was, he gets there and he starts crying because he killed Jameis. It's like that's a reasonable reaction for an Outworlder who's getting his first kill.
Yeah, but they have all the other Outworlders are Harkonnens, which they're also probably not crying, and they also they just kill every other person that like goes to them.
That's true, but it's one of those things where it's like it's a reasonable response, where it's especially for someone who doesn't know water discipline. Like for him to cry when someone dies, it's not a weird. It's a weird thing for it to be like, this is a sign this kid's the Messiah. Like
they have Jessica do it.
Yes,
when she sees but that part it doesn't have the same like effect.
Yeah, it just don't give water to the dead.
So I think it's played off as a joke because then Stilgar licks her tears. She's just like, ooh, like he wipes them. That part too, I thought was kind of dumb, where they had those giant cisterns full of water, and he's like, "Oh, we actually never touched this water." Yeah, and I was like, they don't like they're a little bit nitpicky, but the Fremen the reason they take all their dead waters to use it again. They don't. It's not the same.
It's not just there to be like, here, this is a religious thing.
They drink it. That's why they take it back. Yeah.
They made a point to that earlier with the Harkonnens when they were taking the water from the Harkonnens.
Oh that was funny.
This water we can't really drink. It's got too much chemicals in it, but it'll power the cooling systems in the still.
Yeah, we can use it like for mechanical stuff.
Yeah, like what was the other one that I saw with this? Yeah, I don't know why they used Jameis for that. Because it's just kind of weird. It's like that would have been an opportunity to bring back Oscar Isaac or Jason Momoa.
That's true. They brought back Oscar Isaac. It might have looked way too similar to Superman talking to his dad on like the mountaintops and stuff.
Yeah, but that's okay because it's like I don't have a problem with that.
Hmm.
Like I think that the that would have worked fine. Well, bring back Duncan then.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
Like because the thing is, it's like he didn't interact with Jameis enough for him to have that connection to where it's like, so Jameis, what would you do if you were hunting?
Hmm.
And it's like, oh well, I would go up as high as possible so I can make sure I see everything. That's something. That's advice that I like. That's what I think happened was that's dialogue that was written for one of the other two, and then neither could come back for scheduling conflicts. That's what that feels
Oh
like.
yeah.
Because like when
And that could
you
even been like a flashback to like Leto. They couldn't even
exactly,
be like, oh, this is how you rule. You have to like have a bird's eye view of
yeah,
everything.
you need to see like either one, or even if it was something that they had in the first movie, they're just like, well, we'll just have a flashback to that. Like it, the dialogue felt because the dialogue didn't feel like Jameis's dialogue either. Like it did, he didn't talk like Jameis talked in the first movie.
Yeah.
It felt very like the way they code the Atreides, and
Hmm.
because that's the thing too. And I didn't get the guy's name, but I watched the credits. There's one guy who does all the constructed languages for the movie,
Oh, that's fun.
and he does the Fremen language, he does the Harkonnen battle language, the Atreides. All of it was all done by this one guy, including all the sign language stuff.
Hmm.
That's not American Sign Language. So on top of all of that, like not only did he do that, but the translations are not one-to-one translations. There are a lot of idiomatic expressions.
Hmm.
So like at one point, Chaney says it's translated as he's crazy, but that's not what the direct translation is. The direct translation is he drinks sand, which is an
Oh, that's
idiomatic expression
I
for
like
the
that.
yeah. Like it's small things like that that and that one guy did all that work for
Hmm.
all the languages, which is a lot.
Yeah,
Um,
that's another thing that's similar to Lord of the Rings, where they like put so much effort into something that you might not, that most people won't even notice, but
yeah,
then it
and
just
like
adds to the whole like why the movie's so good as a whole. It's like all
see, and
those
that's
like
the thing too. I
little
saw a
things.
lot of comparisons to Lord of the Rings in this, and I was like, and to that, like I went into like, oh, this final battle is gonna be fucking massive and long. It's gonna be great, and then it's
Mhm.
like it was very short, and I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
it was longer than the first movie's like big battle at least.
yes.
But I think it did everything it needed to do. Like they showed all the different like factions, and they're like, all right, this all worked out.
And I think that the thing is too, it's like there are gonna be people who misinterpret this movie. I'm not entirely sure how because they got rid of all of the subtlety.
Yeah.
There is no subtlety here. Like the amount of times that they're like, we need to go to the religious extremists down in the south. I was like, yeah, no, we understand what you're doing here. And it's like the anytime early on in the movie, and this is something that I noticed the second time, when you watch the way they portray Stilgar and his fanaticism,
Hmm.
and it's like it's played off as a joke. As the movie goes on, and you start see people following him, it just becomes terrifying as more and more people are subscribing to it, and it's like, yeah, let's go
Yeah.
start this war. It's so that's very well done, and the whole scene where Paul assumes command
Yes,
at the
and
War Council.
it's almost like horror music playing.
Yes,
It's like not because every other movie that would be like in the original like 80s David Lynch Dune when that happens, it's like played off as this triumphant like the leader coming to save everyone. And
yeah. Well,
this is like
the '80s movie is a white savior movie.
yeah,
Like
and then this
this
one
one's
it's
not.
played off more like this is going to be bad. Like
Yeah,
even though this it's going this path in this direction because the whole series of Dune 2 because the Dune universe because it's not a good universe. It basically we reverted back to humanity reverts back to a feudal system
yeah.
where everyone is forced to live off planets and like even if they're under a treaty's rule, they're still like slave labor pretty much.
Mhm.
And then and then humanity goes into like a stagnation period, and then like the series of Dune is almost like a punishment for humanity, where they have to readjust to how they live and like change everything, and that's part of why like millions and millions of people end up dying too.
Yeah, it is. I think that like the that scene where Paul's doing that, it reminded me a lot of the scene in Oppenheimer
Hmm.
where he's got the everyone's celebrating after the bombs go off,
Yeah,
and it's like
it's just like yeah, silent.
yeah, That's kind of what it reminded me of, and that's going to be the scene that is going to get Timothy Chalamet an Oscar nomination, if not win.
Yeah,
Like
probably...
I'm very confident in this movie holding out until, and I think that's why the movie was delayed. They said it was the SAG strikes. I think Warner Brothers knew what they were sitting on with this, and they didn't want to compete this with Oppenheimer.
That's a good point.
So I think that's why they delayed it to the week before the Oscars. And I think they're so confident this movie will be able to have the staying power that it's going to be talked about throughout the year, even into Oscar voting season at the end of the year into next year. Because it's just fun. Like the entire way they handled Jessica too.
Yeah.
Like giving her an arc, giving Shady, like everything, anything in the book that was criticized and criticized with kind of a hindsight, where it's like it was 1965, and it's like, yeah, Shady doesn't really have much of a role in the first one. She's kind of there.
Like, there's so many more. The book, even though it's like a longer book, so much stuff happens. There's like paragraphs, because I just reread it, where that become like whole arc points in the movie, like Jessica becoming the Reverend Mother, and then she had her whole spy network, and she's becoming a ruling faction. They do that in like one paragraph in the book. Like, yeah, they like pay attention to so many little things, and then you can tell they did a good job where they read the book and they're like, okay, we can expand on this and like make this like a much bigger thing, and it would look like visually it would look really good.
Right. Yeah. Her whole thing was great. Like, and her talking to Aaliyah through the whole thing is great, because number one, it gives you a way to deal with the Aaliyah problem, where it's like we were speculating, how do you handle Aaliyah? Like, because
there was no easy way to do it.
No,
I think they did a good job.
I could have done with about 70% less looking at an actual fetus.
I like when they showed the blue stuff coming in onto the
fetus. That I was fine with, but like any other time they show the fetus, I'm like, I don't need to see an actual fetus. Like, I don't need to see this. It doesn't add anything. It's just kind of weird. But besides that, I think it gives her, number one, it gives her someone to talk to in these scenes by herself, so that way she can exposit to the audience,
like the internal monologue stuff. Because so much of the book is like, during scenes, it will switch back and forth to different characters' internal like thoughts, and that's how so much of the plot of the book is spelled out. And it's, for a movie, you can't. They tried doing it in the '80s one, and it really doesn't work just to have some voiceover of someone talking to themselves.
Yeah, my son is alive.
Yeah, it's the only thing that's interesting about especially the Jessica stuff is, in the books, Paul is the one that is using the religion and trying to combine the religion with him, and then Jessica warns him to not do that. And says,
that was because I just got that part when I'm re-listening. Like,
but she does start her own like ruling faction, so her like taking over and like whipping up the religious fanatics does happen in the books too, but she's like more hesitant about it, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a great, like, and that was something else too. That was something else I thought was missing, and I thought like one line of dialogue would have been helpful, and this would have been part one. An explanation as to why it's in the book, the explanation as to why Leto and Jessica never got married. Because that lays the groundwork for Paul being like, well, my hand in marriage has significance, so I'll use that to marry Irulan, and that's the thing. And it's the kind of thing where I watched that and I was just kind of like, oh my god, I just had another thought about a Star Wars connection. We'll get to
that. Yeah, that is true.
Messiah.
That sets up the very last part of the book is not Paul, it's Jessica talking to Chani about that. Basically saying like, that she'll be the Empress, but like no one will care. Like history will look on you and us as the actual wives.
Yeah, the consort is always the one that people care about at the end of the day. Because that wasn't even a thing. Because the thing I was thinking about was, in Messiah, it ends with Chani dying while giving birth to twins, and I'm like, oh my god! Because I texted you right after seeing it. I'm like, oh my god, this movie ends almost identically to Attack of the Clones, because it ends with Jessica looking out as the fleets are flying away and saying the Holy War has begun, and then it cuts to Chani in the desert leaving. In Clone Wars, it ends with Yoda looking over the fleets flying away and saying the Clone Wars have begun. And then the difference is it's Anakin and Padme getting married.
Yeah. Yeah, I never
And,
the twin thing, and there be like magic space
yeah,
twins.
and then it's like another thing is too. It's like the fact of the matter is both of them have a war that happens in between them, and it's
Yep.
just. And I texted you the next day. I was like, I could guarantee. Someone said to Lucas, like, so we're just gonna skip over the war part, and it's like,
Mhm.
well, Dune did it, so why can't I? And it's like, all right, do
Yeah.
whatever you want. I don't care. No one gives a shit about these movies anymore. Um, but yeah, it's the movie's visually stunning too. The score is great. Like I added the score to my Amazon Music.
Yeah.
Um, for the infrequent occasion that my car radio works, but it's so good. And one of the things I noticed while I was re-listening to it was the theme that plays throughout the movie whenever Paul and Cheney are together
Mhm.
is the same one that as it goes as you get to the end, it's the one where they get to what was it? They like when at the end when he's having the Emperor kiss his ring, it's still the same theme.
Yeah.
Like that theme is so good.
Yeah, I love the music. It's
Yeah,
great.
this is a very strong score. Hans Zimmer has a deep love for the book. That's why he didn't do Oppenheimer or Tenet.
Hmm.
Was because his thing was if anyone's making a Dune movie, I want to score a Dune movie.
That's good. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, his because it's not just the same music from the first one. There's like a clear difference
yeah,
between the two movies.
yeah, and like you said, that one scene where he's assuming his role as the Messiah, and he's telling everyone like their past and everything.
Mhm.
Like the music there is so great.
I loved when he was like, it was an old name,
Yeah,
a Fremen name, Dune. That was like one of my favorite parts.
yeah. It's I saw someone. You know how every time a movie comes out, they do the fake. This is where they say the title of the movie in it.
Yeah.
Where it's like for Iron Man 2, it's Rhodes in the suit. It says, "Finally, I am Iron Man 2."
That's
Like
what this one is like, Dune Part Two.
it's like I saw one where it's like Shaney's like, "No, Paul, don't do that." And he's like, "No, I want to make sure I'm doing my part too." Like, it this is gonna be. I think this is gonna be a hard press. Like this is a movie that I think is so strong. We could probably. I mean, unless let's look at the rest of the year. For our top 10 list at the end of the year, do you think there's a movie that for you is going to unseat this?
Probably not, because I did go in with such high expectations, so I was set myself up for disappointment, but then it met and exceeded like all of my expectations because it was way more. There's like way more stuff going on too, I think, in this movie versus the first one. But I was
Yeah,
actually surprised about. I liked how slow the first one was and how much it built. And I thought this one was it was going to do the same, but it was even more like there's so much more stuff going on.
yeah. I really like for me right now it's number one obvious like it's been a very weak year so far because it's like
Mhm.
yeah it's better than Bob Marley, yeah it's better than Madam Web, yeah like the movies we've had so
Better than
far.
Night Swim.
Yeah, I haven't seen Night Swim, but the movies so far have not been great. So looking forward, it's like Furiosa is on the horizon.
Oh yeah, that looks good. I saw that, but it was a trailer before the Dune.
Yeah, like the end of the trailer that remember her with the period. I'm like that feels like a question more than anything else because the movie came out 10 years ago. So like, do you remember Furiosa from Mad Max
Yeah,
Fury Road?
with a
Um,
completely different actress.
yeah, exactly. Um, like so there's that. There is what's the other really big one that's coming out this year? Deadpool 3,
Oh yeah,
which I don't think is gonna unseat this. I think it's gonna be good, but I don't think it's gonna unseat this.
Civil
Um,
War. Uh,
yeah, no. I do like that it seems like anytime Kristen Dunst is in a movie, she just drags along Jesse Plemons.
yeah, yeah. I forget. Yeah, they're married, right?
Yeah, they're married in real life. It just like you have something for him too. It's like, and I this might be the thing that breaks his streak because I've never seen him in anything bad.
Yeah, this does not look good.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think what else is there. It's a very weak year because of the strikes.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the
This is the effect of the
yeah
strikes.
now we're stuck living in that in this because it's like there's nothing else really because I mean Joker 2 which Joker 2 cost more money than this and I for the life of me cannot figure out how they manage that.
Yeah, and I don't know if they'll be able to make it, if they'll make it back or not, especially because they're
No.
making a musical.
See, that's the thing is too. It's like I look at this and I'm like, I don't think the first like and purely in terms of quality, I don't think the first Joker movie is that great. I don't understand why everyone loves it so much.
Yeah,
Like,
I liked it, and then I watched it again, and when I watched it a second time, I was like, I actually don't like this as much.
yeah, because it's like number one, you made me watch Batman's parents get shot again, and I'm like, I don't know if we needed to see that in this movie. It's like, oh, we're doing something different this time, and it's like, well, no, I'm still watching, Bruce Wayne's parents get shot in Crime Alley. But then on top of that, it's like, it's just a worse version of the King of Comedy.
Yeah, that's weird. It is weird that it's basically just copying
It's King of Comedy
already existing movie,
plus Taxi Driver.
and then forcing in little references to remind you that it's still a Batman movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's, I don't think Joker 2 is gonna be good. So that Venom 3 is not gonna be good. Like Craven's not gonna be good. It's not a great year. So I think that unless there's a movie coming out of like Sundance or something that I missed and I didn't hear any like, and that's the thing too is I didn't hear any positive buzz for anything out of Sundance. Whereas like last year there was like Magazine Dreams, which was been shelved indefinitely now because of Jonathan Majors. But like that coming out was like, no, he's gonna be a contender for Best Actor coming out of that. And it's like I didn't hear any. There was nothing like that this year. So I think there's a strong chance that Dune Part Two just ends up being the best movie of the year.
Right now, I agree with that, but I'm obviously biased too.
Yeah. Because I'm just going through in my head mentally because like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes maybe.
Oh yeah, I do. I those movies I always just forget about, even though they're so good.
Yeah, that's
It's like a very strong series, and I just forget.
like that's the thing, and considering how bad the series started, like the first Planet of the Apes movie is a classic. If you go past one, they're not great. But
And
then
they're
it's like,
confusing too, like
yeah.
Beneath the Planet of the Apes, War for the Planet of the Apes.
Well, I think two
Like
of
it.
them. Well, Beneath is the sequel, and then I don't know. You can tell me they're in any order you want, and I'd believe you. But the rest of them are all, and that's even after watching them. Um, the the issue is a few of the movies are just a TV show. They put a bunch of episodes together and called it a movie.
That's hilarious. I did not know that.
Yeah, that's what a few of the movies are. It's but the new ones are great, and I saw the trailer for that, and that looks really good. What was the other one? Godzilla X Kong or Godzilla Cross Kong. Did you see the new clip of Godzilla being ridden by Kong?
No, that's funny though.
Yeah,
I'm assuming in the new one that baby gorilla is actually the baby of the evil monkey.
Yes,
Look...
I think that's a fairly good guess on your part. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's gonna be that should be entertaining enough. I don't think there's anything really. I think there's one or two big directors that have a movie coming this year. Like I think that Lanthimos' new movie could come out this year, depending on how effects heavy it is, because they're shooting it now. So that could be a very late this year movie. I think Wes Anderson has a new movie again. Because he's got it down to a science at this point where you can just have a new one every 6 months and it's just, they're all just consistently fine.
Yeah, and well, you just have to have wide symmetrical shots with pastel colors, overexposed brightness, and then you're good to go.
Yeah,
and then
everyone delivering. Yeah,
very stagnated or like very without any emotion and very quickly just read giant monologues, and then you're.
I think he's gonna win an Oscar this year. By the way.
For Asteroid City?
No, for Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar.
No, I don't even know what that is.
It's on Netflix. He did 4 Roald Dahl shorts on Netflix. Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar is one of them. It got nominated for Best Live Action Short Film.
That makes sense because he did Fantastic Mr. Fox too.
Yeah, he's a huge Dahl fan.
I love Roald Dahl. He has like these fucked up fairy tales where like Little Red Riding Hood has a gun and shoots the wolf and makes like. And then she shoots the 3 little pigs and makes handbags out of them and stuff.
He did Poison. He did Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. He did one with a kid who kills a bird or some shit like that. And there was a 4th one I don't remember. But they're all on Netflix now. And so he could win. And there's one, I think Paul Thomas Anderson has a new movie coming out this year too.
Yeah, Phantom Thread I really liked. but I didn't really like
Licorice Pizza.
the pizza one that much.
Licorice Pizza. The best part of that movie is Bradley Cooper and that one scene where he's playing John Waters.
Yeah, he's really. It kind of reminded me of Inherent Vice, where there's a few really good scenes, but
Yeah,
overall, I thought it was kind of boring.
yeah. So I think it's gonna be a fair bet that this is gonna be our number one at the end of the year. What else do I want to say with this movie? It doesn't feel as long as it is.
Yeah, that's a good. I think because they show a lot more of some other characters that
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like I like they showed the Emperor and like Rulon and all that.
yeah.
Um, they like the Harkonnen stuff. The only thing they definitely wasted Count Fenring. That's my biggest complaint, I think.
Wait, he
Actually,
was in the
I
movie?
have two character complaints. Yeah. Fenring, he was in the gladiator scene. He's with the Baron and he like lisps very quickly. He's like
Oh, okay.
he got on drugs. And I was like, okay, that's
Oh, okay.
and he's like weird and bald. They showed the Lady Margot a bunch because like
Yeah,
the
he
Bene
got a
Gesserit and
name.
stuff. But yeah, Fenring is such because he's a failed. He's as powerful as like Paul because he is a Kwisatz Haderach, but he's a eunuch. He was born sterile, so that's why
Oh,
he can't pass on the genetic line. So
right.
he's like he could kill Paul at the very end and then chooses not to because he knows how shitty Paul's life is going to be. So he's like that's a bigger punishment than killing him.
Right. Um, yeah,
Okay, and Thufir Hawat. That's
yeah,
just not it.
well, both of them shot, well, I know the guy who played him shot scenes. He's listed in the credits on the special thanks.
So maybe there's a deleted scene or something.
Yeah, he shot scenes, and then we still don't know who, I don't remember his name. The guy who played, the leader in the Incredible Hulk movie, Tim Blake Nelson. He shot scenes, but we don't know who he was playing.
It could have been in the books. The Baron has like a security chief that becomes kind of an important character. Um, it could have been maybe. I'm trying to think what is another character that should have been in the movie. Yeah, I forget. It could have been someone with the Emperor too.
He shot scenes, but the scenes were all cut, so he's also listed in the special thanks. And that's
Hmm.
also the only place that Anya Taylor-Joy is actually acknowledged in the credits.
Yeah,
Is
it's
in the
so
special
annoying.
thanks.
Someone I don't know who it was, but they spoiled
Oh
that.
my! Well, Letterbox originally screwed up, and they had her listed as Aaliyah in the
Yeah.
cast. I don't know how they found out, but then what happened was Variety saw it at a press screening, and they're like, "Oh, Anya Taylor-Joy's in Dune," and it's like, "Well, gee, who is she playing?"
Yeah, okay, that's the thing I saw where I saw on YouTube her face and it was like in Dune. I was like, okay, so she's playing Aaliyah.
Yeah.
The thing I was immediately afraid of once she took the water and then the baby's awake is that she was going to give birth to Anna Taylor. I was like, please don't do it. I was like,
You mean
they're
like
gonna.
men?
I was like, she's just gonna give birth to a full grown woman.
Yeah, it's. I think that they handle it well, and that's the other reason why I think there's going to be a sizable time jump to the next movie is because you don't cast Anya Taylor Joy.
Well, they can do anything as long as it's like beyond 5 years because Aaliyah, she ages very quickly, so she looks older much faster. And
Right.
then later in the series, she's able to control her aging and then choose how old she looks too. So they
Uh-huh.
can they can do whatever they want.
True. Well, and I think in terms of when they get to Messiah, it's like, well, we know that Villeneuve has 4 projects.
Mhm.
He has the Cleopatra movie that he got from, I think he got that from Patty Jenkins.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I think he cut Gal Gadot, who they originally cast to play Cleopatra.
Mhm.
Because because like the thing is, he's a great director, Villeneuve, and he can get great performances out of people. Like he gets a great performance out of, what's his name? Who's not a great actor, Dave Bautista.
That's what I'm about to say, Dave Batista.
He gets a great performance out of him, and it's like he's not great. I don't think he can. I don't think there's enough magic in the world that he can pull to get Gal Gadot to give a good performance.
Yeah, was that Cleopatra movie? Was it supposed to be like Cleopatra like fighting people and like because if it was Gal Gadot, were they gonna make it like a Cleopatra like action movie?
It's just Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
No, I don't know what it was, but apparently I think that's what that is. Unless there are 2 competing Cleopatra movies in development, which I think is possible but not likely.
That'd be funny.
which
Like the two Hercules movies.
yeah, the two Hercules movies or the two White House Down movies that came out
Yes,
within a
and
year
the
of each
two
other.
magician movies, the with Christopher
Yes,
the Christopher Nolan one, and then the Edward Norton one.
Prestige and I don't remember the other one.
The Changeling? No, not a Changeling. I forgot what it's called.
Changeling was a different one that got
That's like a
nominated.
horror movie.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that there's that one. There is Rendezvous with Rama,
Rama. Yeah, oh yeah, Rama. Yeah.
which I have not read the book yet, but I'm going to.
Yeah, that
Um,
one I'm gonna wait until the movie's coming out and then read the book beforehand because I do like Arthur C. Clarke, even though he is a admitted pedophile. But I also like 2001: A Space Odyssey.
um, that's another one he's doing. He got Messiah, and then he recently was talking on the press tour for this one. He's like, I have a fourth project that I think needs to get the light of day first.
Yeah, that's interesting that we don't know what it is, right?
Right. No idea what it is. We don't even know what genre it is. It could be science fiction. It could be Sicario 3. We don't know.
He didn't
Like,
make Sicario 2, right?
no. His filmography, he's got two movies that I think are both French, like
Mm.
French foreign films, and then he goes from there to Prisoners,
No, he has
Sicario.
that doubles one or duel or something with Jake Gyllenhaal, where he's like a twin or
Oh,
something
maybe
like.
that's what I'm thinking of then, where like that was the movie right before Prisoners.
Yeah.
He had one movie, then that, then Prisoners, then Sicario, then Arrival, then Blade
Got it.
Runner, then Dune and Dune. Unless I'm missing. Oh no, did I say Arrival?
Yeah, he did Arrival.
Yeah, Arrival was before Blade Runner. So yeah, he is definitely like I said it to you. He is what Zack Snyder fans think Zack Snyder is because this movie has a PG-13 brutality to it that like
It was much more violent than I expected it to be.
yeah like when like
Especially with the Fade. I was
yeah
because I thought they were gonna have to tone Fade down and he would not be that great, but then he was pretty fucked up. They did a
no
good job.
and the thing is too it's like if you have a competent director you don't need an R-rated cut of the movie for it to look
Yeah.
good. Like that, like when he's testing the knife out, and there's that guy there who's got his like titties just laying on the
Yeah, that was
tray.
funny.
I'm like,
And
what
he's
the
like
fuck?
shaking and stuff.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
like
that is literally how I've played Grand Theft Auto too, where it's like you get a new tool and then immediately just turn around and start like
yeah,
hitting people.
he kills those two women, and it's like, oh, holy crap! Like
Yeah, and then he's like, oh yeah, the point is like messed up or
yeah,
something.
the point's too blunt.
Or when the Baron like kills those people, you just hear like screaming, and then you go into the room and there's just like bodies piled
Yeah,
up in the corner. Like that's much. I think that's better than just having like a scene of the floating Baron like throwing people around or
yeah,
something.
exactly. And
Oh
what
yeah,
do
and when
you?
at the end, I do something a big change that I'm sure book fans are annoyed at if they're like so into the book. But I liked is that they let Gurney kill Raban.
Yeah, I like that too.
Because in
That
the book, they just bring out Raban's head at the end. I think the Emperor kills him.
I think
Um,
that's better. It gives closure to something. It's not
yeah,
just we're just killing a character. It's like, oh look, he's dead. Moving on.
yeah. The second when they were all in the throne room and then they get attacked and then Raban leaves, I was like, oh, Gurney's gonna kill him. The
Yeah,
second he left, I was like, Gurney's gonna kill him. And then I loved when they hit the Baron's suspensors and he just drops and like slams his
yeah.
face on the ground.
The whole thing with the that final battle is just so good because it is, and I noticed this the second time. It's designed to mirror the Harkonnen attack on the
Mhm.
Atreides in part one. Like
Yeah.
all of the imagery is identical, even down to like in the beginning of the movie, they make sure to show this again, the piling up the bodies and burning the bodies.
Oh yeah, I'm happy you mentioned that too. I thought that was very. Actually, you can finish your point
Well, that's
first.
how it was. It's like it's just like that. This is why I think there's gonna be people who are confused by this, but they shouldn't be because it's pretty on the nose. It's
Mhm.
like they showed it again. It's like, and he says explicitly to Jessica, it's like we have Harkonnen blood. We have to be Harkonnens.
Yeah. And that's why
Like
I think in the book they're like Harkonnen kills Harkonnen tonight or something like that.
I'm only up to I haven't even reached the part where Paul because I've been re-listening to it, but I've been very busy at work. Um, the Harkonnen where I'm up to the part where Paul is in the tent with Jessica. They haven't reached the Fremen yet, and he has the visions that in the movie where he gives that great little thing about the holy
Mhm.
war in my father's name. Like that's where I am, and that's where they reveal the Harkonnen lineage, and
Yeah.
Jessica knows in the what's it called in the book the entire time.
No, I don't think she knows in the book. She realizes it when he tells her, but she doesn't know.
I thought she knew before that too, because earlier in the book, before the betrayal, someone knows. There's someone who knows early because they're like,
The Reverend Mother knows because
oh,
they
okay.
in the box, even before the box scene, maybe there's something like, and of the grandfather we cannot say, or so, it's
Well, it's
something like.
not before the box scene because the box scene is the first thing in the book.
No, the first thing is them Paul in bed, and then they watch him when he's in bed,
Oh,
and
okay.
then it goes to the box.
Like,
It's like the next day or something. But because in the this is Brian Herbert's extended universe,
yeah.
Jessica's mother is Helen Gaius or whatever, and she basically rapes the Baron and like takes his seed to
Oh.
make Jessica.
Which I think they changed in the movie, or no, in
And
the
that
that
actually,
contradicts the book. That's not in the book. The book is different.
so in the book, it's basically they know the Baron's all like, 'cause in the book he's like, yeah, a pedophile pretty much. So they basically collect his semen and like artificially inseminate, and the Baron doesn't know he has a grandchild. In the movie, they like explicitly make it clear that he's like looking at her and he's like, oh, this is my daughter or something. It's like really weird how they showed that.
In the book, what I'm saying is in the book they sit there and they point out that what's it called? Like they explain how Jessica came to be, and it's like, yeah, we put one of our agents there,
Mhm.
and he allowed himself to be seduced by her.
That's it, yeah. But I
Like,
still don't think he knows that she was pregnant. Like she just
okay.
that's and then they like just took then they just took Jessica away and stuff.
Do you think the baby of Margot and Fade has a bigger impact in the movies going forward?
Yeah, I don't know because they made such a big in the book. They almost just like they that's in the book, but it's very quick. Like it happens very quickly, and it's actually more of a scheme between Count Fenring and Margot talking about keeping Fade's like seed and stuff.
Right.
So, but because in the movie they emphasized it so much, I think that is a good point where they might make that a character or
Yeah, and
like.
make it something
Yeah.
bigger going forward. Um, what was the other thing that?
Oh yeah, with the bodies burning.
Yeah.
I really like that because it also shows that now the Fremen don't care about reclaiming the water, and
Right.
they're becoming like they're already changing, and they're
Yeah.
they're wasting the bodies and things.
Right. It's the whole and I think it's I don't think we talked enough about Austin Butler's performance in this. He's
Oh
great,
yeah,
even if
he
the
was great.
Elvis voice comes out like twice. Did
I
you
was about to
catch
say
that?
I was hoping that he was still trapped as a. But did you see there was an article where he was like,
I had to
It was
hire a vocal
becoming too
coach.
dangerous for me to method act," and
I
like
saw that.
I was
He had
like,
to
"Oh my
hire a
God."
vocal cord a coach to
He's like
fix him.
making people like not like he's like becoming insufferable,
Yeah,
an insufferable actor.
but
I did
he
like his voice. It was cool. Like he was very, yeah, he was much better than Sting from the 80s dude.
the Elvis voice did come out like twice. I don't know if you noticed.
I didn't
You
know. You
may
know what? I'm definitely gonna see it again. So
once I pointed out, you're gonna look for these lines. There's a line where he's talking to Count to the Baron,
mhm,
and he's in there, and he's like, "Well, I'm gonna make you governor of Arrakis," and the line is, "But what about Rabin?"
mhm.
Which there are too many B's and
Oh, so it's like
W's.
blah blah blah.
Yeah, which
I
it comes
remember.
out a little bit
I
there.
remember that scene. I'm definitely gonna pay attention to it this
And
time.
then when he calls people darlings,
Hmm.
you hear a
Oh,
little bit like it's kind of funny, and he's really good. He's imposing, and when I did the article, I did my usual bit for Austin Butler,
mhm.
where you know how you're supposed to cite whatever the last movie was. Anytime I do Austin Butler, it's always Yoga Hosers. I
Yeah.
want to make sure no one forgets that.
That is,
Like,
yeah. Wasn't that his first movie?
I think it was his first real role was Zoe 101. He was the bad boy that Zoe was in love with.
Oh wow.
That was his
I
first
haven't seen one.
that was his first real role, but his first movie role I think was Yoga Hoser. So I make sure to cite that
He
anytime.
has kind of had like a linear, almost like a straight line trajectory then.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
forward.
gotten very lucky.
Yeah.
Like um that
He must
that did
audition very well because
yeah.
they don't look at his past. Like,
Yeah. Like so what happened here? Like but yeah, I think he was great. Zendaya had a great performance too. She had a very subtle performance, especially in the third act when
Yeah.
everything's going on and he's talking to, like, he's kind of completely dismissed her, like while he's
Mhm.
talking to the Emperor, like she's not even there, and he's just, he's having this conversation, and it's just her face as she's like, oh, he's gone.
Yeah, without her, because I get in other movies, I bet it would be her like screaming or like
Yeah,
doing something else, but they did it perfectly where you can see she's like, "What the fuck is going on?"
yeah. And her in the scene we keep talking about where Paul is at the War Council, like her there is great.
Hmm.
Like, and the whole thing with her and Gurney, where it's like Gurney's like, just shut the fuck up. Like this is going the way we need it to. Just sit down and let this happen. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Gurney was great where they added him in as like this other influence on Paul to like push
yeah,
him towards like a different direction too.
yeah. And it's like I think that the thing with, again, it is this thing where we're gonna have people confused, but Gurney is very much of the same mindset as the other people in the Imperium, where it's
Yeah,
like
because
we want
he's a
power.
product of the Empire.
Yeah, we want power, and this we have this. We're going to use this, and that was something that was cut from the movie. Is that there's that line when they go to the sand to the not sand crawler. It looks like the sand crawler from Star Wars with the
Mhm.
spice harvester, um, and then they're having to rescue the people. It's like because Leto sees the worm sign first. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, we'll get that, and then Gurney's like, okay, but now we're gonna split it among everyone there. And
Hmm.
there's that line where it's like he's also very good with PR.
Yeah, that's in the book. They go into that way more where they talk about the publicist corpse, where he's Leto's main priority is like making sure he disseminates like publicity or
Yeah,
propaganda
propaganda. Yeah,
to the people to make sure they know he's a good ruler. And they do a much better job in the second movie, I think, about showing the nuances of all the characters.
yeah,
Where Jessica isn't this like savior woman, like maternal figure that's gonna always making the right decisions. Like she has her own motives and she's trying to twist things in her own way. And
oh
then
yeah,
Gurney's doing that. He's not this like just this older like figure that's gonna teach Paul to be like the best person. Like he has his own like
yeah. He wants to get revenge on the
yeah, it
Harkonnens.
shows people being like real people, and
Yeah,
I think a lot of people don't get because so few movies now have that kind of nuance that people just aren't getting it, and they're like, wait, why aren't they all just good? And
yeah.
like,
And that's going to
why?
be the big thing that people don't get is that I think that people are going to leave this not understanding that Paul is not a good guy. Like,
Yeah, and it's like a warning more than anything.
yeah, it's like it's a warning about following religious zealotry, like,
Yeah,
and
and
just
even
being like,
just any type of charismatic leader
yeah,
too,
and they
or
do it
like
such a
putting all
great.
your eggs into one person to rule.
And it's such a better way of doing it in this than the original because the original is it's not ambiguous, but it's kind of like less direct.
Yeah, well, that's why Messiah. So many people hated Messiah is because it was basically telling them, well, you're wrong for liking
Yeah,
Paul
you
and like
you didn't
believing this.
understand. Like we need to beat you over the head with it now because you didn't understand it in the first place. But I
Yeah.
think there's gonna be a sizable amount of people who are gonna leave this movie and be like, "Well, Paul did the right thing."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's like
Like,
what he's the hero. And in a way he does because it's like going down a path. Oh yeah, that was the thing. There was one part that I would have probably gasped or been so happy if they said it, where he was talking to Jessica about seeing the future and like I'm on this very narrow
oh
path.
yeah.
And I was like, please say golden path.
Yeah, I didn't see. That's the thing is that I think that now let's talk about where the franchise goes from here in movies. Because do you think they just make Messiah, or I think Villeneuve is done after Messiah. I don't think he makes.
Yeah, because Children of Dune, it's so much more where it's like there's so many plot points and so much going on. It would be hard to compress all that. And Messiah does have a clear ending, so maybe he will just end it on Messiah with ending with Paul.
Well, I don't think Warner Brothers ends it on Messiah because
Yeah,
I
at
think
least.
I think I think there are a few variables in play here. Number one, this is a very lucrative franchise now for Warner Brothers. This
Mhm.
is up there with I mean, it's more lucrative than DC. This
Yeah,
movie
and
is
Brian Herbert's all in. He's an executive producer, I
yeah.
think.
It's like at this point, like this franchise is gonna make 170 million this weekend. By the
Mhm.
end of this weekend, it's going to be the highest grossing movie of the year so far. Because right
Yeah,
now it's The Beekeeper, like 180. It's going to be number one by the end of the weekend.
I did not know the
Um,
Beekeeper did that well.
well, because it's been in theaters for like a month and a half. So it's like, oh, what else? You want to see an action movie? Well, there's literally no other option. So let's go see Jason Statham beat the crap out of people for the 87th time.
Yeah.
Like, and look, I will watch Jason Statham beat the crap out of people as many times as he wants to do that because it's entertaining every time. But it doesn't mean it's a good movie. But at this point, like this movie will have outgrossed most of DC's offerings last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like it will have beaten the entire theatrical run of Shazam and Blue Beetle, probably combined by the end of next week. So this is, not even close Warner Brothers' most profitable franchise at this point.
Yeah, and that's without Warner Brothers or executives coming out and saying, "Well, this is probably the greatest superhero movie I've ever seen." When they're
Exactly.
talking about the Flash and stuff.
They're paying off Stephen King. They're paying off
Yeah.
Tom Cruise. It's like, oh, that's it. Tom Cruise has a new movie coming out this year with Paul Thomas Anderson. Maybe that was what it was. Oh no, he's with he's with Inaratu.
Oh yeah, I saw the headline.
That was the thing. But so Warner Bros. Isn't going to let this die. I think the issue becomes, why is Dune making a lot of money is going to end up being the question. And I think we're looking at right now a profound shift in the movie going audience in what gets people to go to theaters. Because I don't think it's franchise anymore. I think I think we're back to where we were in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very auteur driven, give me a good experience with someone seeing their vision all the way through beginning to end.
Yeah.
Because look, Oppenheimer, Avatar, Top Gun Maverick, Barbie, like these are all movies that are very much like the outliers are like Minions, which is a kids movie, so that doesn't really count, and Super Mario, which is Super Mario.
Yeah, I think it's hard to quantify, but I think almost people can innately recognize like the effort and like the care the people put into those types of movies, and like
you can look at a trailer,
every little detail is taken into account, and that's not just people standing in front of a digitally produced like background. And
it's wild how in 5 years Disney created the volume, and we're already as a movie going audience already tired of it, and we never want to see it again. Like this groundbreaking technology, but the issue is it's like what I think is going to end up happening is I think Villeneuve is going to do Messiah, and then he's going to step away. He's not going to do Children or God Emperor.
Yeah, because then he'll be stuck doing it for like 20 years then.
Exactly. I think what ends up happening is Warner Brothers will then find another director and will then treat it like any other franchise.
Yeah, and then it'll probably suck.
And then it'll start going downhill. And then it'll stop making money for them.
Yeah, it'll be like The Hobbit versus Lord of the Rings.
And that's kind of The Hobbit isn't terrible. Like that's the thing.
Yeah, I still like it. I have all the 4K extended editions of The Hobbit.
They're not terrible movies. It's just they're not Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and actually the extended edition for the third Hobbit movie, The Battle of the Five Armies, is rated R because there's so much gore in against like all the goblins and stuff.
I'm not gonna lie. Both times I watched Dune over the last week, I've wanted to go and watch Lord of the Rings right after. Because I think the issue is too, it's like I think the lesson from this is go to directors and be like, if we would give you $100 million, what book would you adapt?
Yeah, especially because that's all of Stanley Kubrick's movies are based off of books.
Yeah, and so it's like
there's a clear like system there.
Because it's like if you go to the bookstore, I go to the bookstore fairly often. I don't even buy anything most times. I just go and look at the books in the science fiction section so I can see what's there. And there are so many fantastic series that are coming out now and in the past and all that are just so good that they would never give the time of day to now for a movie, which is weird because it's like Dune is a weird book.
Yeah, it's very, very strange. It's like very sweeping. That's why it's also compared to Lord of the Rings a lot. Even when the books came out, it was compared because it was like the science fiction.
And Tolkien hated that, by the way. Did you read that article?
So I've read the letters, and I think the big thing is Herbert's views on religion, because he viewed it as a very cynical tool, where Tolkien was Catholic and like a devout Catholic. So I think that's why. But in those letters, Tolkien says like, but because I know how hard it is to be an author, I would never try to hurt someone else's book publicly. So
it's all private letters that are now like, look at him say how much he hated it.
Yeah, but And I think part of it's too, it's maybe the cynical nature that Herbert views humanity with, and then
Right.
Tolkien is like much more hopeful.
Well, I mean, and that's very obvious in the tone of the two books.
Yeah.
Like, whereas like Lord of the Rings is very optimistic. It is very cut and dry, light. Like the good will win out.
Yeah,
And
there
it's
is good
like,
and evil.
and Herbert's like, no, it
And
all sucks.
yeah, and Dune is like humanity is fault, like is at fault, and like
Like this is our future. We're all gonna die. Just get
yeah,
used to it.
or be corporate slaves and stuff, and like the
Yeah.
government run by corporations.
Well, I mean, was he wrong?
Yeah, that's why I was like, it is trending towards that
Because
direction.
one of these people was correct. Um, so like
Well, Tolkien was the past, so then now the other is the future.
so the question I have for you, because you read science fiction too, right? And I
Yes,
think what
yes,
would
outside
you
of Dune.
what would you look to
Oh,
if
like what
you
book?
if you, like what would you think would be like in this new world order we're in now?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me go get it so I say the name correctly, but I do have it.
That's how you know you're off to a good start with what the book is, because a lot of the science fiction, like for me,
Oh
I
yeah,
read.
it's just called Hyperion by Dan Simmons, I think
That
would be
sounds
it.
familiar.
It won the whatever it came out in like the 80s or the 90s, I think. 1989. And it won the Hugo Award when it came out. And there's a few books of them, and it's basically it's like it's hard to describe without spoiling it, but it's very good. But it's basically in the future. There's there is humanity, and then there's this other like creature or being that's this all powerful thing that's not God. It's called the Shrike, and it's like some people worship it and they're waiting for it to come, and some people are preparing to kill it. And it's like the whole book is like leading up to this like big moment.
Like, and the thing is too, it's like things like that. If you get it to a director who cared, would
Yeah,
get
and the
people
world
interested.
building is very good. So that's part of why it would work for a movie, I think.
Because the thing is too, it's like there are quite a few big science fiction properties that have been in development hell for quite some time, like the Broken Earth series. The
Mhm.
Three Body Problem is finally coming to Netflix,
Oh yeah, yeah. That's good.
which I have very little faith in because that's the guys who did Game of Thrones.
Okay, great.
Which
And try the are they is it the two main guys?
Benioff and Weiss,
Yeah.
those two.
Oh yeah, they
The,
suck.
my one thing is that it's based on books that are done, so there's no improvising.
That's true. But they think that they're better than the books. That's the issue. So even before Game of Thrones, they moved beyond Game of Thrones. They were changing things and trying to get rid of like magic. And they're like, well, this is a serious fantasy show, so we don't have magic. And then they like wrote themselves into a corner where then at the end they have to use magic to save everything.
Yeah, there's that. There's like, I mean, Rendezvous with Reva's getting done. They're finally doing Foundation over on Apple TV Plus. But like the question is, it's like, why are these things languishing? Where it's like
Mhm.
anytime something like this comes out, be it Lord of the Rings, be it Dune, be it Game of Thrones, be it like Star Wars, even in the '70s and even into the more recent ones, it always becomes these massive cultural
Yeah.
touchstone events when it's handled by someone who cares about it.
And when it's not like the ones that end up failing, I feel like the ones that are compressed or rushed or
Yes,
they're
the
trying to
one once
combine
you
too
start
much.
getting corporate interests involved, when you start getting into The Hobbit, when you start getting into like the end of the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, and even Lord of the Rings, another reason to not like the Weinstein brothers is that
In
Harvey
case you didn't
Weinstein,
have one already.
yeah. Well, he was like, we can't make a trilogy, and he told Peter Jackson he had to compress the three books into two movies.
Yeah, he was it Harvey or was it Bob who said that?
I think it was Harvey that
That
said
feels
that.
like a Harvey Weinstein
Yeah.
decision.
And they had almost nothing to do with the movie at all, but that just because they were involved in the initial process, their names are just on it forever now.
Yeah, in 2002, Harvey Weinstein was nominated for Best Picture for four of the five nominees.
Yeah. And I'm
Um,
sure at least for Lord of the Rings, he had almost nothing to do with
right.
how Lord of the Rings
A
was
lot of
made.
it just he put money up for it. It was like, here, you can
Yeah.
make this. Um, but yeah, it's like and it's like even like with Star Wars, it's like the Solo bombed,
Hmm.
Rise of Skywalker bombed. The other ones made money, and those are like say what you will about the Last Jedi, very much his movie. That was very much Ryan Johnson's movie.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
What's the Rebel one? I forget what it's called.
Rogue One.
Rogue One, yeah.
Yeah, that movie is real. That's probably the strongest of the, of the Disney era movies. Like but that is very much we're gonna do what we want to do, and this is how it's gonna go. Like, once you start getting it, like Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny, once you start getting into these movies, that once you start getting corporate interests, it's like the minute that someone at Warner Brothers is like, "Have you read the book for Dune Messiah by any chance?" is the moment that I start getting like, you know what, maybe this movie is gonna not be quite as interesting.
Yeah.
Because like I would not be surprised if none of the like I think if the current regime at Warner Brothers was actively involved in the development of this movie, it would not have been the way it is.
Yeah.
But I have no confidence that Zaslav or anyone higher up at Warner Brothers understands what goes into making. I mean, definitely Zaslav. He's a reality TV guy. He doesn't understand what goes into making movies because he came from A&E and then Food Network and Discovery, and then he went and now he's running Warner Brothers.
Yeah, and he's the reason why Discovery Channel has all those like
game shows,
annoying reality shows.
Yeah, if you go to Food Network, everything is always a cooking competition or Guy Fieri make people run around a supermarket.
Yeah, instead of just having people cooking and showing you how to cook.
Yeah, or like remember the golden era of HGTV back, when we were younger, and it's like you get sick and you'd watch that, and it's like Curb Appeal. Here's a bunch of people fixing a house.
Yeah,
and it's like we're gonna sit here, we're gonna watch how they redid this house's garden for a half hour, like, and now it's construction competition shows, and I'm like, this is expensive. Or like we're gonna gentrify an entire town.
Like, now they'll go to areas that have hurricanes and like build 3 houses next to each other and compete about who can build the best house or something.
Yeah, which is like so dystopian. Like, yeah, I think that this is like, I hope we get more really, like there was that book I told you about, Becky Chambers, A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. Like, that's the kind of thing I want to see adapted, because it'd be big budget because it's expensive as fuck because there's a lot of aliens and stuff. But all it is, it's the crew of this like spaceship, and the entire job is they build the wormholes for faster than light travel. So it's just an expedition team that just tunnels out these things.
And that'd be good too, because you don't have to have like this huge like hero like arc, no matter what it is. But
it's just we're just gonna dig this thing, and there's other stuff that goes into it, like and there are other books like Bonds of Brass, I think it was called, with this gay couple that one of them was the prince of one nation, one of them was the prince of the other nation. Neither of them knew it, and one of them defected because the family got killed or something. I don't remember. It was a good book though. There's a lot of really good science fiction and fantasy, but I think that number one, we have this thing where on top of that, like the Spiderwick Chronicles got optioned by Disney, produced, and then got shelved. If it weren't for Roku buying it, that would just never come out, and the rights would never revert because it's been produced. If it the rights revert a certain number of days after release, so if you make it and never release it, it's just in perpetuity your rights to do it, and no one else can do it. And it never goes back to the author. So there's definitely some hesitancy among writers to option.
Yeah.
So I mean,
you could get trapped where your book never gets taken or released.
Exactly. And then there's also the Amazon Prime thing where you could end up with like Wheel of Time getting adapted the way that happened.
Yeah.
Like, where it's just not great. And I don't know. I want to see more science fiction and fantasy that's not big, major franchise mainstays that we've seen for decades already. I want to see new stuff. And I think that's what Dune is illustrating. The general audience wants that too. Yeah,
and I'm sure a lot of people read the book, but I'm sure most of the people that go to see it didn't read the book.
No, exactly. I would say that maybe at the screening that we went to on Sunday.
Oh yeah, the pre-screenings, sure, but now
probably a lot of people read the book. But I think that by the time you don't make 180 million worldwide in its opening weekend just from people reading the book. In the same way that like Avengers didn't make 250 million worldwide in its opening weekend just off people who read the comics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was like a much bigger thing.
Yeah, so I mean, look, let's see how Messiah goes when that comes,
Mm-hmm.
with however long down the road that is. So I like who else haven't we like? I saw someone say that Cytail, um, it's unfortunate he's passed, but the perfect person for him would have been Philip Seymour Hoffman,
Oh yeah, that would have been good.
maybe his son.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they look similar.
Do you have a casting? Do you have any other casting things for where they go for Messiah?
It'll be the Guild Navigator. It will be interesting to see what they do.
I think that's just CGI.
Yeah, that's. But I guess how they because he's like a mermaid man kind of,
Mm-hmm.
so that'd be cool. I don't know because I'm trying to think the other besides the navigators. We have a Rulin. But a lot of the characters are the same, except yeah, they go into. I hope they show way more of the Telexu
Yeah,
because they're like my favorite faction within Dune.
yeah,
They're like creepy little people.
yeah. They're
And
gonna.
and
They
then
have to.
yeah, I hope hopefully they give Duncan Idaho metal eyes. That'll be fun.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And I think we talked about this last time we talked about Dune. How fucking great is it that Revenge of Billy and Mandy did God
Oh
Emperor
yeah,
of Dune?
that's the only. I think that's still the only adaptation of God Emperor of Dune. It's Billy
Yeah,
and Mandy, and it's like
yeah.
in the first season of Billy and
It's
Mandy.
it's the second episode.
Yeah, that's definitely if I was in the same position where I could make a cartoon and I was like, all right, we have to do this fast.
Before
So
anyone realizes what we're doing.
yeah, we have to make a Dune adaptation.
It's like and the best running joke through the whole thing is Billy is Duncan,
Mhm.
and he every time he dies he comes back, but the number on his chest goes up every time he dies and comes back, and inexorably every time they come from scene to scene it's up by like 10 or 30,
Yeah.
or just like with no explanation of how he died so many times in like the 5 minutes he was off screen. Like it's very well done and oddly faithful to the book.
Yeah, and for only being like 15 minutes. Like
No, not even. It's seven. It's because those episodes
oh
were,
yeah, it's like the double, right?
yeah. It was like in a 7 minute bit. Like they managed to get the essentials of God Emperor of Dune.
Hmm.
Like
And
it's
work it into a children's show.
yeah. I still think Jeremy Allen White for the God Emperor, Leto the second.
Hmm.
Um, like
Oh, I said Finn Wolfhard could work for
yes,
Leto.
I'm interested to see if he can, like, because I've never watched Stranger Things. I've only ever seen him
It.
in Afterlife.
Oh, okay. He was
What's
an
supposed
it.
to Afterlife? Um, oh yeah, I did see it. I think he's a fine actor. But
Yeah.
also, it's like Timothy Chalamet. Like I thought he was a serviceable, like he's a good actor. Like I didn't think he was anything special until seeing this movie.
Yeah, I think because he was allowed to do a lot more stuff instead of just being kind of brooding. I think in a
Yeah,
lot of his movies he's not he doesn't get a full range of like doing all these other things.
I mean, outside of this, I think his strongest performance is Beautiful Boy with Steve Carell,
Hmm.
which is that Amazon movie where it's based on Tweak, the book about the guy who's a drug addict, and it's a
Oh, okay.
memoir. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He plays a guy who's addicted to crystal meth. He's really good in that. But and I never saw Call Me by Your Name either. But I think that like he'd be good. I mean, the only reason I say Jeremy Allen White is because of how his hair is the entire second half of the movie, where it's just perpetually blown back like that, and it's just like kind of like this giant puff like that, and it looks like
Mhm.
Jeremy Allen White. You never watched The Bear because you said you don't like cooking shows.
Yeah, I don't like chef shows about chefs.
It's that show is really good though. Someone gets stabbed. It's great. It's a great time all around. If it wasn't on FX, there's an episode that'd be all in one take, and the
Hmm.
only reason it's not is because it's cut for commercial
Oh,
purposes.
commercials. Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, it's just one long tracking shot. Um, it's but yeah, he'd be good. Ganima, I still think Nico Parker, who
Yeah.
played Sarah in The Last of Us.
Oh yeah, yeah, that would work.
Because if it's see that's the only reason why I think Jeremy Allen White wouldn't work, and the other one is because Zendaya is not white.
Yeah, it's true.
Um,
Oh, in
Like,
your screening, did Zendaya and Timothy Chalamet introduce the movie?
yes,
And he was wearing like sweatpants, a
yes,
turtleneck, and a giant leather bomber jacket.
yes. The best was that wasn't the first time I had seen him in that because I saw the reissue where they
Mhm.
showed the scene of him riding the sandworm for the first time at the end,
Oh,
and
okay.
they introduced that too, and
That's fun.
it's very obvious they shot those two
Oh, the
back to
same
back.
day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like
Zendaya was fine. She was wearing like a brown suit. It was
yeah.
like normal,
Did
professional.
you see? Have you seen any of the press tour for this? Because it's been
Oh
kind of
yeah.
hilarious. Where it's
Zendaya
like
wearing a chrome spacesuit.
yeah, it's like she looks like the protocol droid from Phantom Menace, but in the porn parody. Like
Yes.
she's got that, and then Timothy Chalamet is dressed like a normal guy who rolled out of bed and is like, "Well, I got to work today."
Yeah, he was wearing
Like
like a long sleeve t-shirt, like standing
yeah, and
next
then
to
people made fun of
Zendaya.
him for that, and it's like, look, if your co-star is Zendaya, you have to coordinate your outfit with Zendaya because you know she's gonna bring some shit. So then the
Yeah.
next premiere, you can tell they coordinated their outfits.
Yeah, and they're like, okay, this looks bad if you just show up like this.
And they gotta stop putting the influencers on the press circuit. Like that's the other thing is they gotta stop with the influencers on the press circuit because they always ask such dumb questions.
Yeah, because they have no idea what outside of their own world what's going on.
Yeah, and it's like there was one of them I saw someone was asking what the fuck's her name who plays Lady Jessica Rebecca Ferguson
Yeah.
asked her like how do you end up working with so many handsome actors and it's like such a dumb question and she's like
Yeah,
well I
do
work
they
with
mean like Timothy Chalamet, who's like probably like 20 years younger than she is or
no,
something?
he's like you worked with Tom Cruise, you worked with this one. How do you keep Ewan McGregor? How do you keep working with these really handsome? And she's like, well, I work with a lot of really attractive female actresses. Like,
Yeah.
what's the point of this?
Or it's
Like,
also, yeah, I don't pick my movies based off of how
yeah,
attractive the co-stars are.
and it's like some like you can tell like Timothy Chalamet and Austin Butler are getting tired of answering the same question over and over again because one of the questions was like, how do you get over being in a relationship and having to kiss someone else on screen?
Yeah, I saw that. It was
And it's
so
like he's like he's visibly sighing in the clip, and it's
because
like
it's just like it's acting.
yeah,
That's like that's why. Like I also don't believe I'm the space emperor.
exactly. And it's like, and I saw one person who's like an actual film journalist, and he was talking about DPs and all of that, and like, how do you, like, is there a DP you really like seeing your work come to life with after that? And the sigh from Zendaya is the sigh of someone like, oh, thank God, I'm getting a different question, and it's
Yeah, it was
something
like
that
that's
someone
something
actually
I could
cares about.
actually something
Like,
I could actually put thought into answering.
exactly. And it's like, and the thing is too, is like you have to take into consideration that like Austin Butler, and Timothy Chalamet, this is relatively new because their past movies haven't been these giant things.
Hmm.
But Zendaya and Florence Pugh are massive stars from Marvel.
Yeah, so they've done
Like
all
they're
the
used to, like they get this shit every time because it's like, she did Black Widow. She played Black Widow multiple times, and then Zendaya was MJ for
Mhm.
Spider Man. So she's already done this 3 times with these giant press tours. Like it's got to be exhausting to deal with these same stupid questions over and over again.
Yeah.
Like isn't it great that the strike ended and now we have to deal with this again? Like
Yeah.
that must have been the greatest thing. It's like, oh, thank God. Like, I wonder if part of them was like, oh, please just the movie come out while the strike's going on, so I don't
Yeah,
have to
so we
deal with
don't
this
have to do a press
bullshit.
story. Especially international press story, you have to fly around and like go to do so many things.
But I think the thing is too, it's like one other thing, and then we'll wrap up because it's getting late in the afternoon, and I still have to go do laundry outside of the house. The I've heard a lot of people say that like we don't have movie stars anymore. We have franchise stars.
Mm.
And like the IP is the movie star. I think this movie kind of proves that wrong.
Yeah, where you have these well, like with Zendaya specifically, where
Well, Zendaya, I
she's
think Timothy Chalamet,
outside of her franchise.
I think Timothy Chalamet has star power now. I think
Mm.
that like you don't like Austin Butler definitely does. Like this movie is definitely the next generation of young Hollywood. Like some of the strongest actors working now. Like
That I definitely agree with.
because I can't think of someone else in that age group of like slightly younger than us, but not by a whole lot. like that I would put like who isn't in this movie because
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
who else would be like beyond these four?
Yeah, and Anna Taylor-Joy too.
Yeah, oh yeah, she's in the movie too, but she couldn't do a press tour because she was a surprise until Variety ruined it.
Yeah.
Like because I can't think of anyone else who would really fit into that. I mean, maybe Iman Vellani, but she hasn't done anything outside of Marvel. Maybe if she gets to step outside of that, and she hadn't acted in anything before Miss Marvel either. Like they discovered her for Miss Marvel, and that was just perfect casting.
Yeah.
Maybe Haley Steinfeld.
What about Harley Smith?
No. Did you see that like she was supposed to play the love interest like in the new movie? Like in the new movie that's coming out this year, the 4:30 movie, it's like her boyfriend is playing like the main character who's supposed to be young Kevin Smith. And he wanted his daughter to play the love interest, and she declined. She's like, "No, that's weird."
That's good. Yeah, good on her. She realized how weird it would be.
Like, yeah, that movie I don't think is going to be good either because that's supposed to be PG-13.
Yeah, he doesn't have a good track record.
No, he does not. And also, if you're gonna put the movie on Austin St. George's back, I don't think that's a strong back to build a movie on. But no, I can't think like outside of the ones that like Marvel has been trying to make into names. Like, I mean, Haley Steinfeld was a name before that because she had an Oscar nomination when she was like 7 years old for True Grit.
Oh yeah, okay. I like that movie. That was good.
Yeah, she was in Pitch Perfect, but she, beyond her and beyond like, I can't really think of anyone else that like is close to being that level of star.
Yeah.
Like, speaking of yoga hoses, maybe Lily Rose Depp would have gotten there if she didn't do The Idol.
Yeah, that horrible show.
Yeah, there's a line of dialogue where it's like, I've never seen the show, but I've seen the picture of this one line of dialogue where it's The Weeknd staring down at her, and it's like, and he's like, "There's so much sperm, and it's all coming out of my penis," and I'm like, someone wrote that as a line of dialogue for this show, and no one was like, you know what? Maybe we can rephrase this another way.
Yeah, or just not show it.
Oh, I forgot. Ayo Idibari is definitely up and coming in that same way.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And maybe Rachel Sennett too, but I don't think she's had anything quite as big yet. The Bottoms was really good. Like there's look up that one clip from Bottoms where it's one scene. It's in the car, just one take. It's Ayo Idibari improvising this scenario of what's gonna happen if she doesn't find someone to hook up with. Where it's like, and then I'm gonna end up meeting this guy, and he's gonna get me pregnant, and I'm gonna move to a small town, and he's gonna become the pastor, and everyone's gonna know he's gay, but it's not, he's not gonna be out because he's gonna be the pastor of the church, and we're gonna have 3 kids, and I don't want that for me. Do you want that for me? The whole thing is so funny. Like, and I watched, I'm like, she's definitely improvising this. Because when you look at Rachel Sennett's character's face, you can see that like because it's all in one take, she's trying not to laugh.
Yeah,
like it's really good. It's like Everybody Loves Raymond when Ray Romano's doing his thing. Like, and he's just improvising shit, and you can tell everyone around him just trying not to laugh, but they have to keep it in because it's a great joke. Yeah, we'll wrap up there for today. So I think Dune's gonna be our movie of the year come end of the year. And I think you were close on your prediction for what the Metacritic score would be.
Oh yeah, I don't even know what it was. I didn't look it up yet.
You predicted 88. The Metacritic score as of right now is 79. So you're within 10.
Oh, okay, I'm close. Yeah, I knew I was smart. I didn't use my emotion and be like 100.
You actually were close on both of your that went in so far on the draft because you have a sizable lead because I haven't had any movie come out yet. Nice. But Mean Girls, you predicted 68. It was actually 58, so that gives you a bonus. And then Dune, nice. You predicted 80. You predicted well, let me change it because I had it from yesterday, so now you're at 70.
Can you bet on Metacritic scores? Maybe I should start wagering or I should start
I
gambling
don't
on.
think you can, but like that was the thing where it's like I text you about it, where it's like you can't gamble in New York on Oscar
Mm,
stuff, and it's like that feels weird that that's a separate law outside of the
yes.
general like sports betting. But right now you have 180.35 to 0 lead.
Nice.
Because my first movie doesn't come out till next week because I have
Mm.
Kung Fu Panda 4, which I think will do very well at the box office.
I think it. Yeah, I think it will because there's not been that much else, especially for
Mm.
children's movies. Not a lot out
Yeah,
else out.
yeah. So the next thing we're gonna do probably. Do you want to come on for Furiosa when that comes out? Because I know you're a Mad Max fan.
Yeah, I like Mad Max a lot, so I'll definitely see that.
So I'm gonna see Furiosa in when that comes out in May. Oh, did you hear they delayed Ballerina into 2025? They delayed it a full year.
No, I didn't. I'm surprised they already announced they're going to delay it.
Yeah, well, it was supposed to come out in June, and they hadn't put out a trailer yet. And I'm like, that's a little disconcerting. And
Mm.
apparently, it was a different director from John Wick. It wasn't Chad Stahelski. And I'm like, why are you bothering to do this if it's not Chad Stahelski?
Yeah,
If you're not going to do the good action, it's not John Wick. It's just generic
yeah, that's
action
not worth.
movie.
Yeah, that's not
So
worth it.
they're bringing him in to do some more scenes and rework the movie. They're going to do a
Okay.
year of reshoots, and it's going to be
They're
totally
just going to
different.
reshoot every action
Yeah,
scene.
everything's totally different now. But Anna de Armas is still the lead. But either way, that movie got delayed. So I think the next one's gonna be Furiosa, and then the mid-year top what's it called? The mid-year top five,
Mhm.
which is gonna be Dune,
Yeah, probably.
Dune.
Can I? Yeah, can I? Because they re-released the first Dune. Can I count both?
Sure. Because I don't think you. How many other movies are you gonna see before between now and the end of June?
That's also a
Like,
good point.
are you gonna see the Fall Guy?
No.
Like, besides Planet of the Apes and
Oh yeah,
Furiosa,
I'll probably see Planet of the Apes.
Planet of the Apes, Furiosa, this and what was the other one? I feel like you're not gonna see Inside Out too. I feel like
No, I will not. At
I,
least not in theaters.
I will go to Tribeca to see that early probably because they did that last year with Elemental.
Mhm.
They make it the centerpiece. But we will wrap up there for today. So until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.